All right, guys, here we are. First drive in an E30 M3. Big thank you to the guys over at Alta Auto Group today for providing this car for me to make this review. This is my first time ever driving in an E30 M3. You guys know how much I love the E36, and this is the predecessor. She is old, man. She's raw, she's a classic, but she is a beauty. She is a beauty. Clutch is a little bit different, so I'm getting used to it. But man, this car is just timeless. So it is in the red. It's red and black. It's got the black interior, red exterior. And it's actually in really good condition, considering the year of the car, the age of the car. The E30 M3 obviously is going to hold its value. It is a classic. It is a collector's item. This is one of those cars that most people who are into BMWs dream of having just in their garage. But it would be tough for me to own one of these personally because I would be so enticed to just drive it all the time. And most people who are buying these cars, they kind of just hang on to them because they are very valuable. So you guys can find this one for sale, this particular one for sale at Alta Auto Group. I believe they have it up for around $65,000, which, considering if you look at the market and what these cars are going for, not a bad price. Obviously, cars like this, you're attracting a very specific buyer. This is a classic, to collectibles. I love it, man. There's characteristics of this E30 that are definitely resonating with my E36. Just that very raw but well-balanced feel when you get in a car like this. It definitely turns heads because people who know what this car is, they know how rare they are. And if you see one, it's kind of like seeing a unicorn. You might see them at your car shows every now and then, but those are just usually owners who take them out to go to the car shows. It's kind of rare to just see one out cruising around. But if you're a BMW person or into cars like these, collectibles, this car is definitely a sight to be seen on the road. But just imagine for the year this car, when it came out, I mean, this was incredible when it came out. Everybody was talking about the E30 M3, and they still do to this day. In 2021, everyone talks about owning or dreaming of owning an E30 M3. And I just love it. I just love everything about this car. There's such a vibe when you drive an older, 90s, 80s car. And this one certainly, it still has that vibe. But at the same time, these older cars, they're not for everyone. This is definitely for a very specific buyer. If you are into the modern cars, obviously, if you are into anything E36 plus, this is not going to be the car for you. I have driven other E30 models, but I've never driven the E30 M3. This is definitely a check off of the bucket list for me. The white and the red are my two favorite colors in the E30 M3. But the red, when it's well maintained, this one is in really good condition. When it's well maintained like that, it looks so nice. The manual gearbox is definitely old. You can feel how it's just got a lot of movement to it, but those were the times. That's kind of just how these cars felt in the late 80s. Other than that, though, everything is really nice. Like, the interior is super nice in this car. It's in much better condition than my E36 interior was when I bought mine. All of the electronics work, all of the lights work, no check engine lights. It's just overall a very well-maintained E30 M3, a great example of what these cars can be if they're properly taken care of. And whoever ends up getting this car is certainly going to be a lucky owner, because these are just classics. And you gotta love them, man. You gotta love them. Now, if you're looking for all the speed in the world, this probably isn't going to be the car for you. But you're just looking for that classic BMW feel, man. I don't know that there is a better car. This thing is awesome, man. This car is fantastic. I love it. It really does bring back memories to when I was younger. I'm a 90s guy, a 90s boy, I should say. I grew up in the 90s. And a lot of my friends had E30s. I wanted one really badly when I was younger, but I just couldn't get one, couldn't afford it. And being in one now, especially the top tier M3, is pretty cool, I must say. But it's just wild to me that, you know, these late 80s, early 90s BMWs, like, they still handled so good for the times. They were so ahead of it, man. And it just drives so nice. It's so clean, it's so balanced. I've driven plenty of newer cars, and I would take this car any day over a lot of those newer cars. You're not really going anywhere super fast, but it's definitely a vibe when you are driving these cars. They just feel so nice. Comment down below if you guys have ever driven or maybe own an E30 M3. A friend of mine actually has an E30 M3 that puts a S54 engine in it, E36 M3 engine, which is mighty cool. Would love to put one of those engines in my E36. Turns good. Man. Feels great, man. What a car. What a car. One thing about these cars, and maybe I'm stating the obvious a little bit here, is that the styling, dude, the styling of the E30 M3, oh, I just love it, man. And it's the same thing with the E36 M3. I love that boxy style, 90s style car. I just think that they look so good. In a day and age where everything is rounded off, everything is aero, everything has all these curvatures, and you just sort of lose those hard edges. For some reason, I've always been a fan of those hard edges. You just can't help but love this car every time you drive an older BMW, especially an M3 version. They're just so fun, man. They're so fun, and they never quite lose their appeal, even if it's not the fastest car in the world. And that's something that you learn over time with age, that having the fastest car isn't always the name of the game. Sometimes it's about feel, it's about connection, it's about the balance, it's about the suspension. And these older M3s were just well known for that. They were just well known for being these fantastic versions of sport cars back in the day. They still are. I can't imagine what this car would feel like with my S52 or like an S54 in it. I bet it's just so fun to drive. You know, you see people nowadays who are taking the E30 body series and they're throwing LSs in it, you know, single turbo S52s and S54s, 2JZs. I mean, they're making insane power, and they're fast because these chassis are so light and they're so nimble. What's so impressive to me is this age of the car and how great it drives. Like, there's no shaking, there's no rattling. It feels very stable. That's just amazing to me. It's an older car, you know, and as things get older, they break, they get frail, they get dry rotted, and this car is just in great condition. I'm starting to notice that some of the younger kids really have a deep appreciation for these classic BMWs. I'll have my Supra at a car show alongside my E36 M3, and the E36 always gets way more attention. It's funny how some of these newer cars just don't really resonate with the younger generation. They're more interested in the classics, which means we are moving in the right direction. It's quite rare that you'll find one of these in bad condition, because most of the times, you know, people know what they have. They know what they have in their hands, unless you just find one in a barn somewhere that's been ditched. But this one in particular is a great example of a well-maintained E30 M3. And if you are into collecting cars, specifically Euros, this is the car, man. Would I ever see myself owning one of these? Probably not. And the only reason I say that is because I love to drive my cars. I like to drive them a lot. And so, you know, owning a car like this, I would almost feel bad putting miles on it. So the mileage on the odometer for this car is 148,792. So it's got about 150,000 miles on it. The body does not show it. The body looks really, really good. Obviously, because they've preserved it and done such a good job. Same thing with the interior. Like I said, you know, my 100,000 mile E36 M3 was in far worse shape than this car all around, exterior, interior. So the motor does have 150,000, but she feels good. She feels healthy. So let's hop out and do a little walk around, show you guys what she looks like. This is what she looks like on the interior, you guys. That old school 5-speed transmission. Obviously the radio deck was upgraded to a Pioneer, but it's actually not bad. I mean, it's pretty clean. I need to do something like that in my E36. The one I have in there is atrocious. But the steering wheel is actually interesting too. This is definitely thicker than the factory E36 steering wheel. It doesn't feel bad at all. I believe this is like the M Sport wheel, or M Sport 2 wheel maybe. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. But it feels really good. It's got the M stitching on it, obviously the M badge. Here are the gauges and everything. Classic E30 cluster. We'll hop out of the car, show you guys the rest of her. I mean, she's an oldie, but she's a goodie, you guys. I just love these classics, man. It's just timeless. And the paint is in really good condition. No nicks, no scratches, no dents, no dings. She's just flawless. It's incredible to me just looking at these cars and seeing how large they've gotten over time. You go from this E30 to my E36, the E46, and slowly they get longer and wider as time goes on, and this thing just looks like such a little go-kart. I just couldn't imagine like throwing, you know, an LS or something, or a turbocharged S54 or like a 2JZ into this would be absolutely mental, because they're so light and they're so nimble. I love the old school wide flares on the fenders, front and back. And it really was just like a hint as to what was to come with BMW. The way that all of their cars, all their M model cars are just so wide. I just love it. The way that it looks from the rear, the way that it looks from the side. It's such a little go-kart. I've never met anyone who says, oh, I don't like the E30 M3. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things, respect your elders. This is one of those cars that it's just a classic and it's beautiful. All right, what a cool experience, you guys. So if you're interested in buying this car, hit up Alta Auto Group. I'm gonna leave all their information down below, as well as a link to their website. You can find this car on there. I believe it's listed for $65,000. There's definitely some lucky buyer out there who is gonna own this car. But what a cool experience, man. I gotta thank those guys for letting me drive this thing and take it out today and make this video. He said that he had a red E30 M3 and I jumped on it immediately. I'm like, that's one of the only cars that I haven't driven in the M line. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Does this car excite you? Are you a classics guy? Is the E30 M3 a car that you must have in your garage, or are you someone like me who is just, you gotta drive the cars? But wouldn't this be just such a fantastic car to just have in the garage and just stare at, almost like art? And if you are one of those people, make sure you comment down below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Love y'all. See you in the next one. Peace out.